So let's talk about Djeeta, right? Because Djeeta is an interesting lady. So, fair warning, trigger warning, there's going to be a lot of comparison to Gran. There's going to be a lot of comparison to Gran over the course of this. Now, Djeeta, it's not like, oh, like, Djeeta can't be good unless she's better than Gran, or like Djeeta, if she's worse than Gran, I mean she's ass. No, it's just more that the characters are similar in a lot of ways, right? And we just did the Gran run, and we just went over our thoughts on Gran. So he's a good reference point to talk about where, you know, the places Djeeta falls short of Gran, and actually the places Djeeta excels over Gran, which do exist. At the start, Djeeta, Gran, but worser? Sure. At the start, yes, Gran's better than Djeeta, for sure. Now, here's the problem, right? Again, when I can't agree with motherfuckers in this community on fucking anything, right? Because people be like, yeah, Gran's better than Djeeta. I agree. Djeeta's bottom 5. I don't quite know about that one. Djeeta's bottom 5 are like close to it. I'm not so sure, right? Gran is pretty fucking good in reality, right? Djeeta, I think, is pretty solid. She's just, you know, so let's get into it, right? We mentioned at the start of, or sorry, at the end of the Gran one, someone mentioned that they, like, you know, one of their friends told them that Gran's gimmick is frame data, right? And that's honestly super fair, right? Gran has premium frame data on basically fucking everything, at least in terms of like startup frames and stuff like that, right? 7 frame far M plus on block 2M. Right, 9 frame far H, 8 frame close H, close like 6 frame even on block close M, etc., etc. Right, Gran, he's the frame data guy for sure. Right. Now here's the thing. Djeeta also, believe it or not, has good buttons. It's just that, again, if we're gonna compare her to Gran, it's hard. She's not gonna, like, very few of her buttons are gonna compare positively to Gran's. There's 2 that I can think of off the top of my head. Right. Her far M, damn good far M. Right. Her far M is a damn good far M. I mean, it is a little. I think it's a little bigger. I mean, it might not even be bigger than Gran's. Honestly, it might just be a worse. Gran just might have a. It's a little bigger than Gran's. It's like slightly bigger than Gran's, but obviously Gran's up close or even in this middle distance is 7 frames. Both of them get slower when they hit on their final frame. Djeeta's goes from 8 to 9, and Gran's goes from 9 to 8. Right. Still though, this is a good far M. It's a big ass far M. Right. This is not like a bad far M. It's a good far M. It's just that Gran's is juice to the gills. Her far H is actually the one button on her that, like, feels like it's not, like, it's just, like, not meant to be, like, they didn't try to juice it, like, that hard, I suppose, right? Again, 10 frames, right? It feels like it's smaller than Gran's and slower than Gran's, I think. Gran has a 9 frame far H that is, like, bigger. Now, I guess, is there, like, a better, yeah, hers has more recovery on it, too, like, is this kind of, yeah, right? But again, this isn't a bad far H. It's just, it's a decent far H. It works fine enough, right? Very, like, her 2U is one of the ones where that's just not fair, to be fair. Her 2U is just a directly worse version of Gran's, right? It's just Gran's with a worse low profile, right? And I believe less range as well. I might be wrong on that. Maybe not. Yeah, no. It's actually a little bigger, if anything. Yeah, so, but you know, it just doesn't have quite the insane hurt box shift down that Gran's does, because she doesn't literally touch the ground, right? The pan actually help? I mean, maybe. Hit confirms are a big deal on Djeeta. Right? But, like, that's kind of where, like, the real, like, the kind of rough stuff sort of ends. Because she has the same even on block 6 frame close M. She has the same 8 frame close H, right? Premium frame data on all of this. Her far L is probably, like, one of the buttons of hers that is just the most clearly, like, better than Gran's version, right? The one thing is Gran's far L will be better at hitting crouchers at max range, right? But her far L has 5 active frames on it compared to Gran's 3, and it's a little bit bigger, right? This is a nice ass button. It's the white woman far L, right? You know how it be. It's the white woman far L. We'll talk about the pan in a second. We can talk about the pan. It's the white woman far L. It's just a really good far L, right? Similarly, now here where we can talk about like somewhere she does, like, it is very comparable. Her 2M is bigger than Gran's, which is very nice, right? Like, she does have, I believe, yeah, right? Like, we whiffed Gran's 2M from there, we hit hers. Her 2M is a really big, really active button. 6 active frames on this. This is a really nice poke. I started noticing this a lot more towards the end as well. This is a good ass 2M, right? Now, obviously, the big difference between this and Gran is Gran's 2M's plus on block, so that's a big deal. This is 3 characters in the video game have this, and Gran is one of them. So, like, I don't know. It does feel, though, and this is where, like, again, we talk about buttons where, you know, Djeeta would rather have Gran's far M than hers, probably, right? Djeeta would rather have Gran's far H than hers. Djeeta would probably rather have Gran's 2U than hers. But, like, the 2Ms, while Gran's is insane and maybe better than Djeeta's on paper, right? one, it's comparable. Hers is it's bigger and more active, but not plus. Like this sort of like this having like this big active like stop sign poke though, I think does work pretty well for Djeeta's, right? So again, just to because the whole point of this, I'm building an agenda that Djeeta is not a bad character, which I have to do. I have to do this with every fucking Shoto that isn't Katalina, Siegfried, or Beatrix, or Belial, apparently. But I'm trying to build an agenda that Djeeta is not bad, guys. I promise, right? So basically, if our conclusion, if you agree with me from our Grand talk, that Grand's buttons are like absurdly juiced, right? Like he has just insanely, absurdly juiced buttons across the board, and like that's his thing. If Grand has bullshit on him, it's how absurdly, insanely juiced his buttons are, right? So if we can agree on that, Djeeta is basically only like overall, Grand's buttons are better. I would rather have Grand's buttons than Djeeta's, right? But Djeeta compares slightly unfavorably in a couple of cases, and then favorably in one case, and then comparably in another case, right? He's on a very similar level to Gran in terms of how good their general buttons are, right? Very similar thing in their air buttons too, right? Most of their air button, the JL, very standard, right? JM for Djeeta and Gran is slightly different. Gran's is more of an air-to-air, whereas Djeeta's is like a backup cross-up button, right? Their JH is both, they hit kind of deep. I think Gran's is a little better. I think Gran's has slightly more downward stab angle to it, but they both have really good JUs. Gran's is much more of a good like deep jump-in button. Djeeta's is in my experience, a more reliable cross-up, right? So like as far as buttons are concerned, right? Djeeta really does not like it's very similar. Right? Grand's better, not by a lot, right? Now, we can talk about another thing, which is damage, right? Because it's something, again, where it's true. Grand does better damage than Djeeta. But, again, I feel like this gets exasperated a little bit between the two of them, right? Both Grand and Djeeta, one of the reasons that an 8-frame close H is so premium, right, is because it lets you do close L into close H, like this, right? We'll talk there's lots of different situations, right? We'll talk about corner, we'll talk about mid-screen, we'll talk about different starters, things like that. But like both Gran and Djeeta, if they get a close L on you and they hit confirm it, they are both doing incredibly above average damage on like a B&B, right? Like both Gran and Djeeta, if they get a close L starter, right? I think Djeeta does have to do 2 hits of auto combo here, but both Gran and Djeeta, if they get a close L starter, like they are going to send you to hell and also end the combo in a good, like that's, get your level 1 charge and go from there. 6,000 damage on a B&B is, well, D.Va does not do this. Right? Most characters don't do this. Beatrix doesn't do this shit anymore. Close L, close H, like, this is really good. Right? Actually, does Beatrix have an 8-frame close H? She might. But with the Fireball nerf, she might still not have that anymore. Right? 6k off a close L is really good. And Gran can do this too. He does and because he's Gran, of course, even in this circumstance, he does a little more. Right? Because he can do 3 hits of auto combo and then still do his full thing. Right? And you can do a very similar ending here for Gran, where you do that. Right, yeah, close L, close H, the second of auto combo there. The 6200 is what Gran does, right? So it's a very similar sort of combo, right? Uses their cooldowns, but otherwise resourceless. He ends up with level 1 5U charge, right? She has 9-frame close H, it's so sad. Okay. So in this sense, this is one of the, like, and even without the this is a hard thing to hit confirm, close L into close H. Even just like regular auto combo like this, right? I believe Djeeta even still will have to do 2 hits here, yeah. Even just like, regular like close M auto combo like this, her damage is still like very, very fine, right? Like, I didn't do close H there, my bad. Wait, you have to delay the, I don't have a character that can do close L, close H, so I'm a little, sometimes the link is, I do it a little too early. Like, even if, what did I just do? Did I launch with DP? Apparently I'm in grazing mode, give me 1 second. Yeah, I did, okay. I was like, what happened there? What went wrong in that comp? Like, even doing something like this, right? Same exact thing we did before, basically, but we just don't get close L, close H, right? 56, 70, and it sets her up. She should be +1 again. I messed up the charge there, but it sets her up plus on block with her important resource, and she gets 5,700. That's not bad at all, right? And again, Gran will do slightly more than this in that situation, but very comparable, right? Now, where we start to see a bit more of a gap, and this is where Gran's buttons and his far M in particular start to really have him pull ahead of Djeeta here, is from these sort of middle distances, right? Gran can do shit like that, right? Gran can do shit. Like, on a standing opponent, Gran can just far M, fireball, far M boots, right? And, like, from there, like, that's where you're really going to start to see a damage disparity open up between the two of them, right? Like, stuff like this into... Oh, it does link. Apparently, I'm horrible at the video game. You saw it earlier. I'm just apparently I'm missing a bufferable 5-frame link to make it a little easier for myself. There you go. Right? Like stuff like that, Gran is gonna do basically the same damage, if not nearly more, as the BMB we were doing before, right? From those poke ranges still, right? Whereas Djeeta, because her far M is slower, she like if she does this, she has good range, but you know, she has good range on her far M, but she's not really going to find these same kind of extensions. Her 2M isn't gonna reach, and her far M is gonna be too slow from this point, right? She can do it from this from slightly more restrained distances than Gran can, right? But Gran's far M being 8 frames, even from distance, is gonna allow him to hit a little harder than Djeeta does there, right? Even that, where she can get far M, fireball, far M, it's still 600 less than Gran, right? And if there are ranges where, you know, she has to just do this, basically, that's where you're gonna start noticing, like, a significant damage fall off compared to Gran, right? Where it's gonna be like, you know, we're talking like 4,400. We still get a charge, it's still a good situation after, but 4,400 is certainly, like, that's really starting to dip down there, right? Now, even still, off of a far M, this isn't like horrendous damage, but this is where you can start to see a bit of a damage gap open up between her and Gran. Because, Gran's buttons are just so, like, everything goes into everything, everything's big, everything's fast, right? So it just works. It just works in a way that her medium distance buttons don't quite as much, right? So now we can talk about mid-screen, right? Because mid-screen is a very interesting point of comparison between the two, right? Regularly, without spending any kind of meter or resource, right? They are comparable, but Djeeta gets better corner carry, basically, right? Like, if we're just gonna do something like auto combo into this, right? Djeeta is actually gonna be slightly better than Gran in most cases, right? Slightly more damage, slightly, like, maybe like noticeably more corner carry. It's probably more damage for Gran to do this, actually. Yeah. So yeah, you know, like, they're very equal, right? The gap sort of opens up when we talk about spending meter, right? Because Djeeta's use skills don't really allow her to extend combos in the mid screen the way the Grans do, right? Like, you can do stuff like this or something, which is, you know, it's gonna be even more carry and advantage, but really, this is not really worth doing for her unless you are close enough to the corner that's gonna get you basically the old H-Rekka wall bounce back, right? You could do something like this if it's gonna mean that you then, you know, get a full combo afterwards, right? And that's good. Like, you know, from half screen, Djeeta's gonna hit you pretty hard off even like a far M starter or something like that, right? Even if Djeeta gets something like this. A little bit closer than round start, apparently, my bad. Even off something like this, like, that's not bad. But if we're talking, like, back to the wall or anything like that, Djeeta is going to have to start spending Brave points to keep up with Gran, basically, right? Gran gets Fireball as well mid-screen. Oh, yeah, so it's far M, yeah, again, right? Gran does get to do this, right? So, again, more damage. That leaves him in a worse spot afterwards, like, he's not going to get quite as good of a situation, but it is, if he wants the damage, he can also eclipse Djeeta's damage meterlessly as well, right? So, once we start talking about spending meter, Djeeta doesn't really keep up, right? Like, Gran can even just baseline, do things like this, right? If he wants to resource dump with his back to the wall, he can, in ways that Djeeta's gonna have a really hard time catching up to, right? Because of how U-boot, like, basically, like, the hit effect on U-boot versus on U-Rekka is what is causing this disparity, right? Djeeta can't really do this. Now, if she wants to, she can do something like this, right? She can do stuff like this. And, you know, that's, again, now we're getting to that's quite comparable to what Gran was doing earlier, and it's basically corner to corner, and, you know, you get a meter refund and all that, sure, right? But again, at this point now, we're not just spending meter, we're spending 50 meter and a crystal, right? Which, I mean, if we give Gran that same privilege, right, then the gap is only going to widen, right? Once again, he gets. You can do HDP for better Oki thereafter, but it'll be a little bit less damage. You know, he gets more corner carry and more damage for the same amount of resource spent, right? So this mid-screen difference is really where Djeeta is going to struggle compared to Gran. I don't think the idea that Djeeta is a low damage character in general, I don't think that really meshes with me too much. But if we're gonna compare her to Gran, the mid-screen is really where I think we can start to notice a bit of a canyon opening up between these two, right? Also with 5U, Gran can from afar poke into ridiculous damage. I mean, I guess it depends on what level of 5U he has. He'll get more or less stuff, right? I guess even level 1 though, right? Level 1 5U. If you get level 1 5U and you go bonk bonk, I guess it confirms off far H probably, unless it's counter hit. Yeah. Does he get anything off level 1 5U normally? Yeah, there you go. Oh. You can do something there. There's something you can do there, right? Yeah, Gran's 5U is certainly better in the mid-screen than well, I mean, it depends. It's better in neutral, I guess, if Gran gets a random poke. Djeeta's is better as a throw bait. or like, you know, as if she's got you on the ground, right? But Djeeta only gets stuff on counter hit. Yeah. But yeah, so is Djeeta lower damage than Gran? Yes, right? Ever thought about how Djeeta doesn't have an ultimate special to combo extend mid-screen? It's a big downside? Yeah, right? But again, Djeeta's corner damage, I think, is actually, it ranges from exceptional to decent. And her mid-screen is, you know, it's okay, right? It's like, it's not, it's like, generally like, I can get, you know, good damage, right? Like, decent damage in corner carry resources, but if I want to do something really special, I have to basically spend a Brave Point. It's like, there's nothing to write home about, whereas Gran's is pretty solid, right? But again, the idea that Djeeta is a low damage character on average, I find to be rather laughable, right? Because basically it is the exact scenario of like we're on this half of the screen, and I'm not gonna we're on this half of the screen where my Eureka is not gonna get me a wall bounce, right? I give her an edge on the truly bad mid-screen characters because Rekka has so much corner carry. I mean, yeah, her resource, even just doing like far M into Rekka, right? It's still like decent corner carry, and you know, for like it's not great damage obviously, but off of a far M, it's like your regular like bad mid-screen damage with like good, very good resources corner carry, right? So again, here another place where Djeeta compares unfavorably to Gran, but in many ways it's closer than people give it credit for. I think this is based off the starting point that Gran is a pretty strong character, right? Damage here is basically equal. Damage here is like, it depends, like Djeeta can get comparable damage to Gran, but it's like, the spaces in which she can do it are more limited, right? Like her far M is going to work in fewer situations, right? And then if we go out here, right, then it does start to, there does start to be a bigger difference between the two of them, certainly, right? But still, it's not horrible damage necessarily. The only place where she is truly lacking is basically, like, back to the wall or close to back to the wall mid-screen, right? So, something else I want to compare, and also just talk about as a strength for Djeeta, is her 5U, right? There's a lot of talk about Djeeta's 5Us and Gran's 5Us and all of this, right? Which one's better, or whatever, right? Like, when you bring up these two, people really like Gran's 5U, I understand. I think one of the big weaknesses I identified for Gran, honestly, the only weakness that I could really be like, Gran just straight up is lacking something, instead of it just being him not being as insane as some, like, more top-tier versions of his character, basically, is that Gran does not have a really, like, a throw bait at all, essentially. Besides just the regular shit of, like, run up backdash, something like that, right? Djeeta's 5U does actually let her do this. It'll kill you if you throw tech, and there's a lot of times that it catch people even doing 2L techs with this shit, right? So, Djeeta, her 5U is a pretty solid throw bait, and besides that, it's also just a way for her to force you to take some kind of action, right? Because even on low level, if she spaces this thing out, even level 0, it's +2. If she gets any charge at all, which is going to be relatively common, then it's plus no matter how you space it, right? This is very synergistic with the rest of Djeeta's kits, which is basically, if you hit a button, I'm going to kill you. Right? Very similar way, kind of, to how Gran's works, right? Gran's plays a lot more around, like, the charging mind game and stuff like that, but the idea is, like, well, you have to hit a button, or Gran's is going to eventually do this, and then the risk reward is going to be incredibly out of your favor, but if you hit a button and you get counter hits, Gran's going to send you to Valhalla, right? Their 5Us function in very similar ways, except Djeeta's is also a throw bait, where Gran's is higher reward if it does catch a counter hit, right? Like, Djeeta's counter hit 5U is gonna usually hurt you pretty bad, right? But not as bad as Gran's. Even like level 0 counter hit Gran 5U is like a 10,000 damage combo, right? So again, I think this is a place where remember your training. It's relatively comparable, right? If you want to say Djeeta has a better 5U, Gran has a better 5U, I don't know, right? Gran's 5U is, for example, is better in the mid-screen if he off pokes and things like this. If Djeeta gets any kind of knockdown, you can get throw baited in the mid-screen. If she has the level and she gets a knockdown, right? You can get throw baited in the mid-screen just as easily as you can get throw baited in the corner, right? There's no rules against it, basically. So, it's very give and take. Gran and Djeeta both have incredibly strong 5Us, and these kind of do function as their third special move, right? It's a very similar thing to how Katalina works too. The reason Katalina's Light Wall is, I assume, the reason they wanted to make Katalina's Light Wall as strong as it is because these characters all have 3 special moves, which is an inherent downside to all of them, by the way. Gran, Katalina, and Djeeta all have 3 specials, but the reason I don't talk about it too much is because basically their 5Us are stronger than most of the cast's 5Us, and they sort of function as their 4 special for them, right? What else can we talk about with Djeeta? Oh, I mean, here's something where Gran is like a pathetic, sniveling, crying little baby in comparison, right? Is Djeeta, you know, I'm gonna say, I said this before already, I'm gonna say it again. Djeeta has a worse version of release Siegfried H Fireball, basically, right? Now, that might not sound like high praise, but if you know what I'm saying, then what I'm saying, in brackets, I'm saying this shit is broken, right? Yes, she has to charge up and do it, right? She has to charge up and do it. That's true. But like, basically, like, you can't just sit back and let Djeeta do her thing in neutral, because this is Fireball Drive Rush for no fucking resource, man. She just has Fireball Drive Rush in a video game without Drive Rush, right? Even worse, in a video game with fucking 6XL. Right, so you can't let her get this off, basically, or you're going to be in big trouble. The other, like, it is the H version, so she will spend a cooldown on it, right? It's only the H version where she gets, like, quite as much block stun and stuff like that. And it's a problem where, like, even if you let her charge this and you jump it, she's actionable again, she can kill you for it if you roll. There's a lot of ways you can try to punish your attempts to interact with it once it's out, right? I mean, every Fireball is that one worse, but this functions in a very similar manner, is my point. It's worse in the sense that, like, it has more startup and you can jump over it more easily, but, like, this is like if this Fireball gets on the screen, Djeeta basically wins neutral. The difference is there's a lot more, again, we're not comparing this to Siegfried H Fireball, because that move was ridiculous, right? But, like, the difference is a lot more counterplay and, like, stopping her from doing this as she's charging with a U Fireball or something like that, but this is an incredibly strong tool that Djeeta has access to, right? She just gets, you know, an incredibly powerful neutral skip. I mean, I'll take this over Spaced Boot a fucking 100 times out of 100, man. Right? Like, this is, like, if Grand's equivalent to this is, like, spacing out his boot or something like that, right? This is just, like, 100 times better, a million times better, a quadrillion times better. This Charged Fireball is incredibly good. And it's something that Djeeta has where Grand basically just cannot at all compare in this aspect, right? So, it's also double nice, because what this means is that Djeeta as a character, right, is by nature, this with having all these very long active frame pokes that Grand doesn't, right? 5 active frame far L, 6 active frame 2M, stuff like this. Djeeta is the more defensive of the two of them in how she wants to go about her neutral style, right? Grand has more plus frames, he has better, like, counter hit stuff like this. Djeeta is inherently a more defensive, the more defensively minded of the two, right? So what the existence of this move does is it forces you to come at Djeeta. Because if you don't come at Djeeta, she just gets free neutral win, right? She auto wins neutral and she's like plus a 70 cajillion in your face. Or if you want, you can take the risk of jumping over it once she launches it. But again, I mean, Djeeta also, not quite as high damage as Grand, if I remember correctly, but Djeeta does also have some pretty nasty ways to murder you for jumping at her with a 2H, right? Now, to be fair, if you jumped over the Fireball, her, like, best combo, which is the Fireball, is probably not going to be there, but she can, like, do 2M. I didn't do a single fucking anti-air combo as Djeeta, by the way, over the course of the run, right? But she can do stuff like that into Eureka, even if she wants to extend for, like, bigger deeps, right? You can do stuff like this to actually get, like, a full-on wall bounce off that shit, and, you know. Good corner, better corner carry, less damage than Grand and her anti-airs overall. Similar kind of style to the rest of the kits as well. You can do 5M2 from there, yes, but the timing's a little stricter. You have to be a little higher up on the bounce. But yeah, so it's, like, again, not only is Charged Fireball just an incredibly strong move to have in a vacuum, it also leads very well into forcing you to kind of play Djeeta's game of coming at her, and her using all, like, her really nice pokes to punish you for trying to do that, right? So that, you know, that's point Djeeta as far as I'm concerned, right? Isn't the anti-air route for her like 2H5U? Yeah, I mean, also, you can do stuff like this, actually. But I mean, if the way you got that was because they jumped over your H Fireball, then obviously you're not going to have this available as an anti-air extension, right? But you can do Charged Fireball anti-air combos that do a pretty silly amount of damage generally. Actually, I have to delay it more, apparently. Goddamn. I got delayed. I'm going too early on the 6H. I'll let him fall a little bit more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. You get the idea. But if they jumped over Charged Fireball, you're not going to have that. Naturally. But yeah, really good corner carry and damage on anti-air. But yeah, so we're not really talking about Djeeta's weaknesses and strengths in a vacuum here as much as I am comparing them to Gran. But my point is that Djeeta is, you know, if Djeeta has a weakness, it's basically just that. I mean, her mid-screen is a weakness, certainly, right? Her mid-screen is a weakness, certainly. But like, that's kind of it, right? That's kind of it. Like, besides that, she basically is, her only problem is just not being as overstated as some of the other people in the video game, right? But again, this is where I talk about the fact that someone earlier, when I first started this video, someone in the chat was like, I guess it's an idea of like, why even play her if better versions exist? I have horrible news for you. You should never play any Shoto that isn't Katalina. Right? You know who's a better version of Gran also? Right? Doesn't have plus 1 block 2M, I guess, but I mean, he doesn't have charge firewall either. But you know who, like, by and large, is a better version of Gran? Katalina. You know who's a better version of Vera? Katalina. Of Anila? Katalina. Of, honestly, at this point, like, even of, like, characters like I would, like, she's better than fucking Siegfried, too, honestly. It's like, why would you play Siegfried when you could play Katalina? Or something. You know what I'm, like, that is not really an argument. I like to think of it as power creep, but no. Djeeta, I don't think is power crept by the game. Djeeta is power crept by the Shoto archetype, which, guess what? Fucking everyone, almost every member of that archetype is. The only, like, 3 members of that archetype that are, like, that by this logic are, like, worth playing are Katalina, Belial, and Grant, right? And sure, we can say, if you want to win Arc World Tour, maybe pick up Katalina instead of Djeeta, right? But realistically, like, that doesn't make the character bad. That makes Katalina really good, right? Compared to the casts, I really don't think that Djeeta is, like, well, so if we stop comparing her to Gran, right? We just compare her in general. Her mid-screen is basically, you know, slightly below average, maybe? And pretty much everything else about her is good to great. Right? Power level of the game has gone up and she has stayed the same for a while? Sure, but I don't think, I mean by that, like, just because characters below you have gotten buffed doesn't necessarily mean you've gotten power crept, right? A lot of the characters that have gotten buffed are still worse than Djeeta is, right? On the bottom end, it's gone down. On the top end, yeah. Characters unplayable because insert top tier exists. Like, at this point, Djeeta's mid-screen becomes, like, slightly below average, and everything else about her is good to great, essentially, right? So, you know, like okay, if we bring this shit back up again, listen, we talk about this every goddamn time when I bring it up. I'm gonna try and stay somewhat focused on the actual character I'm rating and not get distracted by other people's opinions and other placements on this list, right? But yeah, like I had Djeeta here. I have Djeeta as like she's like the solidest solid character in my opinion, right? She's the solidest solid. Gran is a little higher, right? And I was worried after playing Gran. I'm like, am I gonna think that Djeeta's actually ass or like bad? But no, honestly, like nah, I don't think so, right? Now, after all of this, Djeeta, you'll notice, basically smack dab in the middle of the roster, right? I have about half the roster above and below her. And again, to be fair, like this, around here-ish, maybe around here or something like that. Like there's kind of a grouping here of characters I think that are a little better than that, not like enough to be like obviously worse than these characters, but obviously better than like some of the other people in this tier, right? So like, you know, maybe it's like if you wanted to interchange a bunch of these, right? I don't think it would necessarily be incorrect, right? But like she's just like middle of the cast, right? Now, I don't know. I feel like it may have seemed like I was making a very strong argument for Djeeta being like broken or something like that, and now I'm like she's middle of the pack. It's more so that I'm like I don't understand how people think she's like down here. In what universe, right? In what universe is this what we're talking about here, right? I feel like I do also think Ladiva's better than her. No. Honestly, okay. If we're talking about Ladiva, I'll distract myself for Ladiva. This is where I put Ladiva immediately after I read the patch notes. In reality, the buffs are even better than I thought they were. Ladiva, unironically, is a high tier character, I think. Genuinely, Ladiva's a high tier character in this patch, I think. I put her there after reading the buffs right away. The buffs are in practice. The buffs are even better than I thought they were. Right? I'm not gonna. If I talk about Loewen and Yuel one more time, I'm gonna shoot myself live on camera and change the course of all of your lives forever. Okay? So I'm not gonna talk about Loewen. I'm not gonna talk about Yuel. I'm not gonna talk about Charlotta. I do not care. But the player's gonna get you for this. The character's really good now, right? Thoughts on Zoe, by the way, real quick. You know, if you want to run down the ladder, right? She is one of the least inspiring of these like vague Shoto archetype character. Obviously, she's a little bit different. She's got the dragon, and it's like she's not quite as straightforward as a character like Gran or Djeeta, right? But like we're talking even worse mid-screen than Djeeta. A good 6XL, good ass 6XL, right? A lot of the dragon stuff is either fake or not as good as it seems on the surface, right? Like the F-150 is like straight up punishable on spot dodge, like easily on reaction, for example. Things like this. He's not awful, right? She's not awful, but like of all of the characters that might feel a little like just need a little tune-up, a little tweak up in some numbers, she's up there in my head, right? Zoe should be under Nier, TBH. Nier is fucking garbage, I think. I don't think Zoe's that... Okay, Nier's not garbage. Let me not be so mean. But, like, Zoe, like, again, I think Zoe is still... Like, the verse... Like, characters like Anila, like Vera, like Zoe, like, the versatility inherent in their kits, even though I do think, like, these are... If you want to look at, like, the worst all-rounder... Calling Zoe a Shoto, we're going way too far on the alignment chart. But, like, on the vaguely, like... on the vaguely, like, all-rounder style characters, these three probably are the worst in the game, but the inherent, like, versatility in their kits is still always going to put them above these characters like this for me, right? But yeah, Zoe's not great. She's not great, right? Zoe's definitely a tier above Nier. I can't even shitpost that hard. Yeah, Zoe's not great. She's not awful, right? Everyone basically, if you draw a line after, like, Lucilius, maybe, that's probably it, yeah. Everyone here, I would like, again, these two I don't know, okay? I don't know about these two. But everyone here, I would be down to see them get some, like, seriously, like, moderate, significant buffs, right? They're not, but again, even Anila is not a garbage character, right? Anila is not awful, right? But, honestly, the main things I want for Anila are some consistency changes. I think they would go a long way for her. But anyway. Yeah, so Djeeta, what about Fairy? Fairy might be higher. I might be underrating Fairy a little bit. Matera feels... noticeably better than Fairy to me, and I'm not as high on Matera as most people are. So maybe if my opinion about Matera goes up, maybe my opinion about Fairy will go up. But I think Fairy and Matera are both solid and strong and like super viable and could easily win tournaments. But Matera is better for sure, right? Again, if you want to, if having Matera this low, if you can put Matera vaguely here, and it's basically what I think about her still, right? So I think Matera is like notably better than Fairy to me. So that's why Fairy is that low, basically. I mean, even on her own merits, I think she got a lot better, right? But I think a lot of her weaknesses are mitigated, but still exist, right? And the Brave counter nerf actually hurts her, where it doesn't really hurt Matera. So her buffs, even though her buffs, honestly, she might have gotten more buffed than Matera did, just like side by side in the patch notes. But the Brave counter changes are actually a nerf to Fairy, whereas they're a side grade at worst to Matera. And you could argue the Brave counter changes are actually a buff to her. And also the counter hit DP stuff is also a buff to her, right? So, a way bigger buff than it is to Fairy, anyway. But yeah, Djeeta's a solid-ass character, man, right? Is she Katalina? Hell no. Is almost anybody Katalina? Hell no, right? Like, by that logic, you shouldn't play Sandalphon or Gran or Siegfried, you know, or Djeeta or anyone else, because Katalina exists. So I feel like with these, like, Shoto or, like, all-rounder style characters, I feel so confused all the time. I feel like people are just... I assume the reason that a lot of these characters feel so downplayed to me, right, is that it is the biggest, it is the archetype with the most members in the game, right? And therefore, there's the most... You can compare people, one person to the other, the most, right? You can just be like, well, Djeeta doesn't have the things Katalina does. She's not even that good. Doesn't Fairy have results? Absolutely. Well, why does that preclude her from being there, right? Yeah, Fairy won Evo Japan. Right? It was Evo Japan. Right? Fairy won Evo Japan. Fairy's a good character. I don't think you need to be top tier to win a tournament, right? Like, yeah. As opposed to Matera. I mean, Matera, I don't know if Matera's won anything major, but Matera I mean, it is Monarch, to be fair. Matera shows up in a lot of top 8s. Also, again, I don't really give a fuck about results in terms of how good I rank the characters, right? It's circumstantial evidence. I look at Matera and Fairy on paper, and I'm like, Matera seems better to me. I say this every fucking day, man, but I really only care to watch tournaments and look at results. Not results, actually, because I think results, if you look at results and that's how you place a character, I think that's a stupid way to do it, plain and simple, right? At the very least, watch the fucking tournament. But even then, watching the players, I only care to watch it for the sake of, okay, are they going to show me anything I didn't know the character could do, right? Are they going to, like, show me, like, are they going to change my understanding of the character? Which they could. They understand their character way better than I do, right? So if I see them do something and I go, oh, fuck, I did not realize Matera could do that or Fairy could do that, that might change my opinion. How the character is placing, I don't give a fuck. That is so much more person than it is character, right? And I mean, forget Fairy and Matera. Obviously, the biggest example of this is this bitch down here, right? If I cared about results, she's, like, somewhere here, probably. Because Zeron keeps beating everyone's ass on, like... top 8 every single time, and one combo breaker recently, right? But I think that's Zerom. I don't think that's Charlotta. But anyway, I said I wasn't getting distracted. I keep getting distracted. It's just, yeah. Djeeta's good. Djeeta's good. Djeeta, he's, honestly, the power level that Djeeta is at is one that I think is a pretty good place for a lot of the cast to be in, right? Does it mean like, oh, no one's allowed to be stronger? No, I'm just saying, right? Djeeta to me feels like he's a very, you know, he's a very solid character. And the fact that a lot of characters that were weaker, like kind of to Tubby's point, the fact that a lot of characters that I thought were way weaker than her are getting buffed to be in that same conversation, right? Characters like Vayne, characters like Avatar Belial, right? I mean Fairy, but I know it's a little bit more contentious, right? I mean Zeta kind of got nerfed down to here, I would say, right? Stuff like that. Like that's good to me, right? Now if we want to make characters stronger, we can, but the power level that Djeeta is at is like a very like solid, functional, viable character that can definitely win. But maybe, you know, I'd rather more people be around here than like around here at the very least. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with like, you know, being a little stronger, but you get my point. You get my point. I like where Djeeta is at. I mean, if I had to suggest buffs for Djeeta, I don't even know what we could talk about, because like again, she feels like real good. Like, mid is an insult, I know in a lot of places, but Djeeta literally is the middle of the cast to me, which is a good place to be, I think. Especially in a game where, now again, it's middle of the cast, where the floor is much higher and the ceiling is much lower than it's ever been, right? So, like, it's not like the people above her are like 100 times better than her, and it's not like she's eclipsing the ones below her, right? Like this is, she's just a good, solid character. But people are saying let her have the 2-1 4H wall bounce again. I don't quite know how I feel about that. I kind of like the idea she has to spend 50 for that now, right? It's really hard to suggest. I mean, if we just wanted to make her better, right? Like, I don't think Djeeta needs buffs to be like good, right? If we just wanted her to be better, though, I think making level 0, you can make level 0 5U. One of the big differences between her 5U and Grand's 5U is that her level 0 5U, I think, is a little bit less useful than his, right? Now, I don't know what we do about this exactly. And I mean, even then, right? Grand's level 0 5U, you need a counter hit for it to do anything, if I remember correctly, right? I think on regular hits, I don't think this does anything. Which is the same thing for Djeeta's, right? But counter hits are easier to come by for Grand's 5U versus Djeeta's, right? Djeeta's will usually hit on punish because it's a throwback. It won't hit on counter that often. What's the purpose of her 2-3-6? You never explored it too closely. Oh, her U fireballs. That's actually. I didn't bring it up with the comparison to Grand. This is a really good U skill because on counter hit it wall bounces, right? And it's +5 on block. So actually a really nice way to like run up and just like catch a delay match, something like that. It's a very safe way to do so. And even if it just hits normal like this, I mean you're +58 or whatever, right? Make her 5U an overhead. It's not an overhead currently, right? It's a high, which is what this game calls mids. I know it's very confusing. So it's not an overhead currently. That's an interesting idea. I mean, I get that's an interesting idea. It would add a new dynamic to her, certainly. This isn't. I guess that's not that much different than like most like a 6-6M or something. It's safe on block and it's reactable. Yeah. It's but like the problem, like, you know, it'd be a safe on block reactable overhead, I guess. But that's not that wasn't really the direction that I was gonna go in it. I was gonna say if maybe like level 0 5U to me feels like it needs to do a little bit more something, right? Because again, it is not gonna be counter hitting as often as Grand's. It's gonna be hitting on like on a punish or something like that. Now I don't know what I want though. Like, I don't know if I want her to just get a full combo on this. Maybe like it's it's +5 or something. She gets a close L, right? Because even non-counter hit level 1 is +7, right? So you can get close M. So I'm not sure if I want her to get like a full combo on hit for this to start. Oh no, because close L's, yeah, that's a little much, right? Because close L gets close H after, right? Would she get it from this distance? Yeah, she would. Ooh, look at her close L spaced. Yeah. Maybe don't let her get close L close H, right? Maybe don't let her get close L. Yeah, maybe have it push her back a little bit further and let her get close L where she has to do a regular auto combo. So she has to do something like this, you know? That would still be good for her, but yeah, like letting her get the close L, close H probably a little, that's like better than level 1 at that point, damn near, or it's the same. Yeah, so I don't know exactly what it would be, right? But I would like level 0 to do a little bit more. Maybe it's even on block? That would start bullying a lot of the cast for no reason, right? It's hard, man. I guess, you know what, let me not be a coward, right? We're not trying to buff Djeeta to make her balanced. We're trying to buff her to make her strong. If you wanted her to be like a high tier or like borderline top tier character. These things, we can do these kinds of things, right? We can do these kinds. We can give her a fucking combo on the full thing. We can make it even on block if we'd like, right? But like normally with characters in like this sort of middle of the line power level, I'd have a lot of thoughts about like, oh, they need like X or Y consistency buff. They need this or that, like, you know, a consistency buff in some places. That's not really Gran and Djeeta's problem, neither of them, right? Like, they are incredible. Like, everything in their kit just kind of works, by and large, right? I mean, maybe you could make Rekka, like, lunge forward a little bit more so that in some of the air juggles, you know, it doesn't drop as easily. But even then, that's like, those are like supreme edge cases, right? So, like, there's not really any quality of life buffs that Djeeta needs. You would just be buffing, you basically will be, the devs decide we want Djeeta to be like a top tier or a high tier again, right? So, and they buff her past the point of her being like a balanced, strong character for no reason. Which, if they're gonna do that, yeah, maybe they can make this an overhead that gives her a combo on regular hit. Why not? Right? Why not? Make this a fucking overhead that she combos off of on regular. Well, maybe not on okay, if we're gonna make, we could probably didn't do both. Maybe not both. Either maybe make it an overhead, maybe make it a combo on regular hit, something like that, right? For level for 5U. But yeah, right. I mean, if you want, you could fucking give her the wall bounce back, but that was a big nerf, and I don't think they're going to go back on that anytime soon, right? You could do things like if you wanted to juice her buttons, you could do that too, certainly, right? Either her already great ones you could juice even more, or you could like make her have more comparable buttons to Gran, right? Like maybe her 2M is even bigger, but it's still not plus, or maybe her far M is like, it has 3 phases. It could be like 7 frames up close, 8 frames from mid-range, 9 frames from far away, right? You could juice her buttons too. But again, it's not going to be like, that's not, she needs this. That's like, we want her to be strong. So let's do it. Last thing. Let's talk about the pan, because the pan is not the only weapon like this, right? But it is interesting. It's like the most known point of discussion, right? Should the pan be banned in tournaments? Yes. Right? Is the pan gonna win you sets single-handedly you wouldn't have won otherwise? Almost never. But it is like obviously, like, you know, there is a, like, the hit confirming is, like, audio cues are very important for that shit, right? And the regular, like, sword sound on block versus the, like, really just doom, doom on hit, that is gonna make a difference. That is more obvious, right? That is more obvious than something like Gran. Like, there's a reason that things have different hit sounds on block and on hit. It's to help you hit confirm things or block confirm things, right? And the pan makes that easier. So it is literally a skin that is an advantage. It's going to be a slight advantage, but it is literally an advantage. Same thing with something like Charlotta's Kanabo or Percy's baseball bat, right? Or like Seox's cat claws. I don't think do that because I think he just does the sound anyway. He does it when he attacks, not when it hits or lands. He just goes like regardless of what happens. That skin might be an advantage because it might make your opponent want to end their life, but I don't think it's necessarily better for hit confirm, right? So yeah, I mean, if you want the pan back, every Djeeta weapon having the pan SFX, that is be a buff to Djeeta. Her hit confirm slightly better. That's true. That's true. There you go. There's a buff to Djeeta right there. But yeah, man. Maybe me and everyone we are on the same page, but like when I put a character here, everyone else would look at that and be like, oh, so they're ass. I don't know if that's how people judge characters in the video game. Like, maybe people would agree with, like, the rough placement of Djeeta on the tier list, but they would go, that makes her a weak character. I don't quite know that I buy that, personally. But that might explain it, too. Whatever reasoning people might have, I'm going to tell you that my stance, at least, is that I think Djeeta is pretty damn solid, right? Djeeta is, there are many characters in the game that I would rather get a buff before Djeeta got a buff, right? And by many, I mean literally a good half of the cast. There's a good half of the cast that I'd rather get buffed before we see Djeeta get buffed. I don't think that makes a weak character to me, personally. But what do I know?